Today I am driving a 2018 Subaru Legacy. Now, normally I don't usually spend much time thinking about vehicles like this. They just don't pique my interest as much. But this specific car is owned by my good friend Mike, who sold his Audi RS7 for this car. He traded it in and bought this brand new Subaru Legacy. And most of the time I tell people that my friend with the RS7 got a Subaru Legacy, they either greet that statement with a blank stare of confusion, a what the heck, and ask what happened and why. Because those are the only plausible explanations. But the gist of it is, I wanted to try out Mike's Subaru Legacy and do this review just to see what in the world would happen for somebody to be okay with trading a really awesomely spec'd RS7 for the Subaru Legacy. Because there's got to be something about this car that made him pick it out of the entire lineup potential vehicles, including keeping his awesome RS7. So let's talk about the Legacy in detail. This car is very highly optioned, pretty much fully loaded. It's got the 3.6 liter flat six. It makes 256 horsepower and 247 pound-feet of torque. A key note is, of the vehicles in this segment, there are very few that actually offer all-wheel drive. The Legacy is one of them. Subaru's symmetric all-wheel drive system thing, something they're kind of known for their brand. You know, Audi is known for Quattro with their all-wheel drive systems. I think you could also argue that Subaru, with like the WRX and the whole rally history, could be associated with all-wheel drive. So the Legacy does have that. It has a CVT for the transmission, which I hate. I'm going to take a moment right now, and we're going to sit here, and I'm going to rant for a little bit about how much I hate CVTs. Developed in theory for better efficiency, blah, 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 passenger vehicles. They're never designed to be a performance vehicle. And as a car enthusiast, I kind of approach everything as, how does it drive? How does it feel? Because if I'm driving it, I want it to be not like torturing myself in the vehicle. CVTs are a nightmare. They just kind of build speeds weirdly. Their responses are horrible. And I think out of everything, regardless of how an actual CVT works, what pisses me off most about them is the fact that manufacturers still insist on programming in these fake shifts. This car has paddle shifters, a manual mode for the transmission here. Why? It's a CVT. It doesn't have gears. And it'll program in like these fake shifts, and it makes you feel it. And I think it's because general consumers don't understand or have any sort of concept of how a CVT works or what it is. Heck, they probably don't even know how a normal gearbox works. So they program it in so people have that feeling of security knowing they're like changing gears when they're accelerating. I don't like it. A lot of CVTs, like, you just floor it, it runs up the red line, it gets kind of holds there, like hovers weirdly. It's just, CVT, I think, is the biggest letdown here. Now, are there some benefits? Yeah, some marginal efficiency gains, I believe. There's a reason why some manufacturers do them. Maybe less moving parts, it's a little bit smoother for certain things. But torque converters, modern automatics have hit the point where they're so good at efficiency and they run so smoothly. I don't get a CVT. All right, well, in that CVT rant then. Other powertrain stuff, all-wheel drive, got a double wishbone suspension. There's some decent development in tech in this car. So that leads to, how does it drive and how does it feel? I will say, for just kind of a mainstream sedan, it actually is pretty nice. In terms of the ride suspension, the road feel, I'm actually pretty comfortable right now, and there's not a ton of road noise, wind noise, and tire noise. The steering, I actually really like the weight. I think that has become my favorite part. I don't know if there's different modes. I doubt there's modes that Mike has messed with, but there's a surprising amount of weight. Usually in modern consumer cars, the steering is just super light and just kind of This actually has a good amount of weight to it. There is a lot of body roll, but again, Mike actually mentioned this too. He's like, there's a lot of body roll and the brakes are kind of soft and mushy, but you're comparing it to someone who I daily drive an S4. He came out of an RS7, used to have an S4, etc., etc. Our frame of reference a little bit shifted. From a normal car, it's probably very ordinary. Now, right now, pretty much what I've been trying my best to baseline this against is a Ford Fusion. I used to work at Ford. I spent a lot of time in those. My dad has had 2 Ford Fusions. We currently have 2 in the family right now, just regular Fusion SEs. So I've spent a good amount of time in the Ford Fusion. So that's a direct competitor. This car was $36,000. It's a highly optioned midsize sedan, but it's right in that range and segment. So the driving stuff, I think it's okay. It's actually a pretty nice place to be as a to B tool. So if you're a family or just a young person who just needs a vehicle that will be reliable and work well, it is not the end of the world to drive. It's not a horrible option. let's talk about styling. I actually think it looks all right. For the segment, I mean, it looks pretty good in person. This car actually, Mike was bragging earlier today about how this paint is $850 and the paint on my S4 is only $800. He goes, my car is more expensive paint. This red paint does look pretty nice. The wheels are 18-inch wheels, got some contrast to them. The lights are pretty modern and sculpted, got the LED daytime running lights and everything. So overall on the outside, I mean, it's a mid-sized sedan that in a segment that is crowded and packed with, I mean, almost every company makes a vehicle that fits in there. You got to do something to stand out. The Fusion, when it first came out, the kind of Aston Martin styling really looked really good, but it's kind of aging. It's way too old. It's boring. I think the Kia Optima, when that came out, looked really good. Now, some of like the new Toyotas are getting a little bit too extreme, I think. But I think it's a good enough looking car from the outside. On the inside, it's actually not bad. I actually sent an ownership video. These leather soft touch panels with the cross stitching legitimately feel nicer than the Maserati Levante I was in earlier today. The materials aren't bad. This is all just black on black. Steering wheel's nice and hefty. It's got a ton of buttons and features. Infotainment is pretty friendly. The main home screen just functions off of like a tile format. The touchscreen works pretty well, responsively good. And there are still physical knobs and buttons for changing the volume, adjusting climate control, things like that. It's got your bunch of spaces. Like, this is what these vehicles pride themselves on. How many cup holders and spaces you can put things in, and USB charging ports, because practicality is a highlight. Tons of rear seat legroom. It's way more spacious than a Ford Fusion. I've been in the back of my dad's... everybody in my family is like... we're all 6 feet and up. My dad's 6'3", I'm 6'3", youngest brother is 6'4", the middle guy's short, he's only 6 foot. So like when we all get in the car, whoever's in the back is really cramped in the Fusion. We would fit back here. You could put a 6-foot adult in the back seat and have legroom to spare. So from that aspect, I'm actually pretty impressed that the Subaru Legacy interior cargo, or interior just volume, seems pretty good. Other than that, on the interior, I mean, visibility is good. I feel like I'm in a fishbowl because this car has no tints on it whatsoever. But overall, it's not a horrible place to be. I expected lots of plastic and vinyl and fake cheap fueling, but it feels quite solid. Going over bumps, you don't hear a bunch of rattles. Again, the car is pretty new. I know Mike had one minor thing he did take in to get taken care of. But overall, I would say the interior is all right, and I'm flooring it right now. No. Yeah, it is. You'd expect. I mean, it's a decent horsepower number for a vehicle in this segment, but it does get kind of abysmal fuel economy because it is a large, naturally aspirated 3.6 liter flat six, whereas like my dad's Fusion has a 1.6 liter EcoBoost 4-cylinder. That's like less than half the size with forced induction, and it gets way better fuel economy. This thing isn't actually rated that highly. It's getting the same fuel economy as I think my S4 is. So from that perspective, it's kind of not great. But what else is there to say about this car? The Subaru Legacy overall, I can kind of understand, I think, why Mike went to this vehicle. He was being responsible. If you are somebody in the segment shopping for this, a practical family vehicle to get your family around town, or you want to be able to work and take it in the snow and whatever, it's not a bad option. I think in the segment, it's really hard to choose because there are just so many things that you're faced with. Everybody is offering this and that and different. I mean, you see so many mid-sized sedans. So to stand out in the segment, the Subaru offers a lot of good technology. I forgot to mention some of the eyesight stuff. We can go in depth and talk about that a long time, but it's got like a departure warning and blind spot and this parking and that, and like it has your entire suite of safety features. But again, this is a highly optioned car, but you can get all of that. All the tech is available. Tech and safety features are in great abundance in this car. What else? I think it's a pretty good value. I don't know what these lease for or resale wise they do. I think Subarus might hold decently. I mean, they're known for their safety and tech and stuff like that, I think. But overall, the Legacy CVTs suck. I'm surprised about the interior and how this thing feels. Let's see, it doesn't get that good a fuel economy, and at the end of the day, I still think trading an RS7 for this car, I would not recommend doing that. If you're getting into a new vehicle, you want something that works every day, it could be a good option. I think I would take this over a Ford Fusion, and that's coming from personal experience of having spent a lot of time in my family's Ford Fusions. But yeah, there is the 2018 Subaru Legacy 3.6R, whatever the name of this car is. That's what it says on the back. And there we go. Hope you guys like this video. If you have any questions, please comment below. Thanks for watching. Oh, also, you should check out the ownership video for this one, because I think it's quite funny, because it's me and Mike in the car talking a little bit about the car and mainly just ranting at each other, arguing about why he sold his RS7 for a Subaru Legacy. But he will buy an R8 soon, or a McLaren, and everything will be okay. Thanks, guys. Bye.